Okay, in this lesson, we will build from our last time's application. So what we are going to do in this one is we are going to look into the coroutines or the state management. So we are not going to implement any APIs or room databases today. In this lesson, we are going to get the key understanding about the development of state and management of state. So when you start developing an application, there are two ways you can approach it. One way is you are thinking about the UI and working backwards. The other way is you are thinking about your data and working forward. So the second way is the most useful way, because once you know about your data, it is more intuitive for you to decide on the interfaces as well. So let's begin implementing our system in the MVVM architecture. That means model view model architecture. So here you can see the UI theme here. That means UI is the view and view model, and then we need to have a data layer, and also we need to have what else, model view. So view and view model will be inside the UI layer, and we have another extra data layer which is the model part. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our package. So new package which is data. Okay, and here inside the UI we at the moment we only have theme, so let's go ahead and add our view and view model, those two packages. So let's go ahead and add them. New package. So here we have to say sorry, I had to just select the main package, and inside that let's create a package. So here our package should go inside the UI, so we should put ui.view. Okay, that way now we have this UI inside that one. Okay, so this is our view part. Okay, you can add the view model inside the same thing because it is more intuitive to do that, right? That way, because view and view model are more like the front end, right? So the data is more like the back end of the app. So let's go ahead and add view model package as well. So let's go ahead and add view model. Okay, now we have added the packages for UI, and inside data we have to define model and the repository packages, and this is where we are going to define our network, our synchronization, and our room. All those packages are going to come under this package, but for today we are adding only the repository and the model. Okay, so I'll explain what they are in a moment. So let's go ahead and add the package model, and then let's go ahead and add the package. So new package, since it has to go inside the data, we have to write data dot repository. Okay, so now those two things are inside our data package. So this is called modularization. Since we have these modules, we can easily find out whatever we are looking for. Okay, so the view and view model goes under the UI, and the model and repository goes under the data package. Right, so let's think about model. Model is actually the data we are trying to implement, right? So let's go ahead and create a new Kotlin class Okay, so since this is nodes app, so our model will be, that means data we are looking at will be node. Okay, so node will be our class. Okay, and we are annotating this one as a data class, because a data class will automatically create strings and hash code, all the function all by itself, so we don't have to create them. So this is an advantage of Kotlin. So let's pass our parameter. So inside our node it should have obviously an ID, so that we can sort and find them out. So let's add an ID of a type of int, and then let's go ahead and add a title, which is say title, the type of string, and then we are going to add extra information, maybe list of stuff inside that one. Okay, so we can say in these notes app we are just thinking about bullet points, so we say bullets, bullets, the type of list. Okay, which is a string list. Okay, so this is how our data class looks like. So now we get an idea. So as we look into this backend, we will get an intuition that okay, we should somehow showcase these nodes maybe in a list, and when you click on a list item, that list item will showcase the bullets inside that one. Okay, and the title on the top. Maybe now we can gradually get the idea how your app should look like. Okay, so here we are specifically have a repository which is getting the data, right? So they get the data from wherever you have stored. Normally you are storing it in a room database, or maybe you are calling an API and store that in the room database and then get it from the room database. So this is how normally it's been done, but today we are not going to talk about room and network calls. Because of that, we are going to create a like some dummy data of nodes. Okay, let's go ahead and create that one as well. So let's create a new repository, say nodes repository. Okay, let's add that one, and we want to make sure that we are creating this repository only once. We don't need this one again and again, because we are creating one object of that one and then we are calling the function inside that one throughout our app. So what we should make this one as a singleton. That means it's just one object for the whole app. Okay, so let's make it a singleton. So singleton capital. This is our now we are going to use our Hilt to inject the constructor. Okay, right, so this is how we inject the constructor. So now we can create one object, and that object will live through until the app dies. So we can access this object to get data. Okay, so let's create a function called get data, okay, or get nodes, right? So this one should return a list of nodes. Okay, there's no type, right? So let's get the class imported. Make sure your importing your own model here, and this one should return a list of nodes. Okay, so let's create a list of nodes. Node ID is 1, title is say holiday, and then you have a bullet list, so just create that one as well. So let's create a book flight, and then let's add another one, pack bags. Okay, so right, so let's make sure that this is a list, so we are passing the correct okay, let's make sure it's a list of strings again, so we can pass this accordingly. Okay, right, so expecting another bracket, so let's see what we missed. Yeah, a note, and then we have to close this one, and we can add another node, so let's copy paste this one, and let's put a comma. So this one can be something else, what we can say, this one is maybe weekend, so the list of item can be shopping, and then we may be having maybe sleeping in, etc, etc. Okay, so those are the, now we have two nodes, so let's make sure that they have two different IDs. Right, so this one returns us a node, list of node. Okay, so you have to remember all these backend function, they should run on threads, they should not block the UI thread. Okay, so they should run on separate threads. Because of that, we have to mark them as suspend. Suspend meaning that it is a function that's runs in the background and it doesn't block any other thread. Okay, so when if it is blocked or something get the priority, this one is paused, it will not block anything else. Okay, so this is the suspend function, and to simulate that there's a time that we are loading this, because obviously we have to either call API and or we have to call the room database, it might take some time. So to simulate, let's add a delay, similar to sleep in Java. So let's add a delay of 3 seconds. So yeah, now our function is ready, right? Okay, so now we have the function, now we have the node, and we have to manage the state. Okay, the state meaning whether it is in the loading or whether we got the list back from whatever the call we are doing, or whether there was an error. Okay, those things has to be managed as states, right? So for that we are adding a sealed class. Okay, a sealed class called UI nodes state. Can give any name, so I'm giving this name. So this is a class, a sealed class. Okay, so inside this class it will return objects. So whenever we have this UI node, it will return objects. So the first one is an object which is loading. Okay, name loading, and it emits this class. Okay, right, this is what it returns. Okay, and then it has the successful response, and when we have a successful response, something is coming out of the function, right? For example, here we get the successful response, we got a list. So because of that, the second one is not just an object, it's going to be a data class, because it's going to emit some values. Okay, so data class called success, and it is also and it has a list of nodes. Okay, so and let's give it the name nodes, which is a list of nodes, and it also returns this. Okay, and you had to define the value val. Okay, right, and this next one is the error state. Okay, so let's say there was an error while we are going to get the data, so say error, and it gives us a message. Because of that, it also a data class. Okay, so the type would be a string message, and it is the same state. Okay, so having this seal class is essential, because from this our UI knows what's actually going on in the in your database. Okay, so I also can mention something here. For example, if you want to call the network periodically, right? If you have to listen to something that is happening in the backend all the time, then you can emit a flow instead of node. Okay, so we will talk about that in our future sessions, but for now we just emit a node. We assume that what we are getting is the current one, and it doesn't need to be keep updating every time. Okay, for this app itself, it's not essential, right? While we have saved some nodes, we are just accessing the same nodes, so nothing is changing in the backend from something else. Okay, right, so these are the UI states. Now what we have to do is we have to go ahead and create our UI to access these nodes. Okay, so in here view model is the next stage, so the one that is closest to our screen. Okay, so let's go ahead inside the view model and let's create a new Kotlin class file here. So give it a name, nodes view model. Okay, so in this one is going to be a view model class, so we have to extend that. Okay, with that view model, and this node view model class should get this repositories, right? We should pass this one as an object to the view model, so that we can access the methods inside that one, because we are going to display the nodes, right? So that that means that we have to get the nodes. To get the nodes, we need to we should be able to access this object. So let's go ahead and inject that object here. So let's inject constructor. Oh, sorry. We can just straight away call it, I think. Let me see. Repository, nodes repository, and we have to inject this constructor as well using our Hilt. Okay, inject constructor. Okay, and this is, since this is a view model, we have to annotate it as a view model, so that our dependency injection knows this is a view model. So let's create that one. This is going to be a Hilt view model. Okay, now our constructors are done with this view model class, right? So we already injected our singleton repository here, right? Now the next thing we have to do is we have to find a way to listen to this function which is in the backend, right? So for that we have to use something called StateFlow, okay, or Coroutines. It's a part of Coroutines. So let's create a StateFlow. Okay, so in the StateFlow, let's create a private one is the meaning that it is only valid inside this function, only accessible inside this function. Okay, just give it a name, say UI underscore uiState. I will explain why we are using underscore here, right? That meaning that we are only it is only related to this one. It's not the public one, right? The private one. So we put underscore uiState and we are putting equal sign after that. We are not specifying whether it's a state flow or not, but what we are doing is we are assigning that to be mutable state flow, and we have to give the type. Okay, so what type of state flow we are looking at? So we already defined some UI states, right? So these are the flows, these are the states we are going to listen to, whether it's in loading stage or success stage or error state. Okay, so let's add that UI state nodes and let's put the initial value to be loading. Okay, right? So uiState.loading, that's going to be our initial value. Okay, so now since this is the private value, next thing we have to do is we need to get whatever happens to this variable outside of this view model so that we can check that from a screen. Okay, so that we have to create a public one. Okay, that means without any modifier, it's going to be uiState without the underscore. Okay, this one has the type. Okay, so let's give the type. Which type it is? It's a state flow of UI node state. Okay, and we are going to capture that one. Okay, so we are going to get this one's value. Okay, that means underscore uiState dot asStateFlow. Okay, so whatever happening here we are capturing and we are assigning to this uiState. Okay, when you are defining this one, you should never put the type there. If you put the type there, whatever you are trying to put getting inaccessible because you have fixed to a type, because this is keep changing. One is an object, one is a data class. So never put the type here, but when you are listening you can assign the type. Okay, because we know what kind of thing it is looking at, what kind of thing you are getting back. Okay, right. Okay, now we know that we need to listen to these states. Okay, so we already used the loading state and we have to get the success and error state. So whenever the view model is initialized, we can ask our repository, which is passed here, to get the nodes. Okay, so you can see there's a problem here. When we are initializing it, it is complaining that this has to be called from a coroutine because this is a suspend function and it is not a suspend function. That means we have to wrap it in a coroutine function, right? So let's say load nodes, and we will do that. We'll create that load node function, right? So inside the load node function, let's create our coroutines. So for the coroutines, we'll first give a scope. The scope here is view model scope. Okay. So this is viewModelScope.launch. Launch means we are running this coroutine and we don't wait for it to give us the result. We just fire it and forget it. So whenever the results are ready, we are listening to this state 4 object. So then the state 4s are fired up. We can use the results. Okay. So what we are going to do inside this, we are going to call this one. Now we don't have any issue, and whatever we are getting is going to be assigned to the uiState. Okay, so let's get our uiState, which is the private one, obviously, because that's the one we are manipulating. We are not touching the public one. Public one is going to be outside of this view model, right? So this one's value initially is going to be loading. Okay, right? And then you are trying to get a successful result, right? And if you did not get successful results, you're gonna catch an exception, and we are going to call the we are going to set our uiState to be what? Error state, right? So let's say error. Actually I put this uiState dot error. Okay, and this one we are expecting that to be successful. So here we have to pass a parameter here. So we have to pass a message which is e dot message dot toString. Okay, so this is the message we are going to pass, and here if we are trying to get the successful result, so we'll get uiState dot value, assign that to uiState dot success. Okay, and then we can pass this list inside that, right? So whenever we are listening to this uiState from this one, we can listen to what's happening in there. Okay, now the next step is to create our view, which is the screen. So let's go ahead and create that one. So let's say node screen. It is actually a file because this is going to be a bunch of methods we are going to put into that one. So let's create a function called composable function, name as node screen, the initial one. Okay, so this is our first composable function where we are going to listen to this state, that means the public variable, right? So first of all, we need to create an object of this view model here. Okay, so let's create an object first called view model. Okay, You have to assign that. So you have to give the type. What kind of view model is it? It is a nodes view model, and we are going to assign Hilt view model as our view model. Okay, so for this one to appear, you have to have this compose Hilt, right? So go ahead and make sure that you have that one. Let me show you quickly. If you haven't added that one, make sure you go ahead and add it. So let's go to the build file, Gradle file. So here in Hilt, you have a Hilt navigation compose, right? This one is essential. If you didn't have this Hilt navigation compose file, let me show you the actual one. So you have Hilt compiler, and then you have Hilt navigation compose. Okay, so this is the actual library. If you if you haven't added that one already, go ahead and add it. So you have the Hilt view model starting with simple H. If you get one with a capital H, it's not the right one. Okay, so go ahead and add that for library. Then you have the right composable, the Hilt view model, which is which can be used inside the composable functions, right? Okay, now we have the view model. The next thing is we have to look into our uiState, right? We have to access the uiState. So what we're going to do, we are going to define another variable here, says uiState again, maybe doesn't matter, it's a different place even though. Okay, so this uiState is going to be a state flow. Okay, state flow of what was it, ui node states, right? Which is the same thing, which is the same states we were defined here, the same function, same sealed class. Okay, so this is the flow, this is what we are listening to, right? Okay, if we go ahead and recap, so we are listening to that state flow, and we are assigning various different situations to the same state flow, which is loading state, success phase, and error state. In the success phase, you can access the nodes, and the error state, you will get the error message, right? Okay, so now we have this one, and we have to get the view model dot uiState. So you can use collect as state or collect as life cycle. So let's say collects as state with life cycle, right? So since we are not directly assigning this one, we have to use, instead of equal sign, we have to use by this. Okay, hold on one moment. Let's find out why it's complaining. Initialize a type mismatch. Actually is nodes state, expected state. Yeah, so it's asking us to cast it. Hold on, let's ask Gemini for that one. So if you encounter things like this, it's best not to panic and try to get some insights. Or you can, instead of saying this, you can straight away write a prompt saying, can you fix this this one says it's a collectible. Why I can't assign that one uiState as collectible? Should I use by or something like that? So they are suggesting, yeah, they are suggesting a new import. So let's allow it and see what's actually they are trying to do. Okay, so this is the correct way of defining it. So you have to have a uiState, and without giving the type, you have to say that it is by the view model and collect state. Okay, so yeah, nowadays it's much easier, so you don't have to remember all the boilerplate code. If you know what you're doing, you can easily find out the correct syntax, right? Okay, so next stage is we can access the uiState. Then we have to make sure that we are providing the right screen for each uiState, right? So let's add them. So we can say when say we are assigning this one to a variable for state equals uiState. Okay, so now let's say this one is okay. They have already started working on the screens as well. If I were you, I would actually accept this one and decide whether they have given the right solution for us. But since this is a tutorial, I won't go ahead and accept it, but I will later on will use it. But yeah, as if you are a student, if you are getting suggested the next steps, because it's intuitively knows these are the things that will happen within the class. So here they are adding the exact same thing we are trying to do here. So you are getting this one. If it is this one, is the loading state is loading. Then we are going to show a circular progress bar. Okay, so it is best to accept this one, or you can just follow through the same thing. Likewise, you can say for each and every. So I am tempted to accept this one, so because it makes our life much easier. So let's see. What happened? Did I allow it? Okay, right. So it's much easier nowadays, so you don't have to actually remember most of the boilerplate code. So what we are actually doing here is we skip them all. So you can say here keep all. Right. So what we're actually doing here is, so if the state is loading, we are going to show a circular progress indicator, and if it is success, we are going to show a node list, which is another composable function, and if it is not successful, there will be a text message. So you can improve this one as well, right? So let's see what node list function does. So here it has introduced a lazy column. Lazy column means it's similar to a recycle view in XML. So a lazy column is something similar to that. And here you have item nodes, okay, and also add a key as well, right? Key being if you don't have key, it will recompose all the time, right? So if you have the key, if the key only has changed only, it will um, recompose, that means create it again and again. If you don't have the key, whenever you scroll, whenever you move, it will create the list again and again. So it is expensive for battery life. So let's put a key. Key meaning that you get the nodes ID, right? So this is ID. Okay. It.id, sorry, the ones this node's ID as a key. Okay, and then when for each node, so this is like a for loop sort of. So in the items for each node, we are going to call a node card. Okay, so the node card is what's been displayed inside the list. Okay, so there are several cards. So they have defined a class with the modifiers. Then you have the okay, so here they have listed the node bullets as well, which we don't need. We just need to see the title on the list, and whenever we click on the node, then only we go into the bullets, right? So let's comment this one out, because we can reuse it in our other screen, which if we are planning to develop that one as well. So here we have the nodes, so everything is done for you. And for click event, you can add the class on click method. Okay, so you can say on click right on the top. Yeah, so you have the on click. For that, we just put some to do there, or some empty function for the time being. So we have to implement what's going to happen when the card is clicked. That means we have to navigate to the details screen with the ID, right? So we have to pass the node ID and navigate to the next screen. So okay, so let's run our project and see how our lists are rendered. So okay, so this is our app. Can't see anything, so that means we have to add this node screen to our main activity, right? So there's a navigation component that we can start using, but I will introduce that one in our later lessons. So for this one, we will just replace the greeting to our nodes app. Okay, so the nodes screen, is it? Yeah, node screen. So we are just passing the node screen. So let's run this one again. So we can see that the circular thing is going on, and then we have this list. So we had holiday and weekend. So on click, we can navigate that to the next screen and show the details. Okay, so that's up to you to try on. So so let's recap what we actually did today. So what we did was we found out a method to listen to the output, right, using coroutines, and we grabbed that through the state flow, and then we displayed that in our screen, okay, using the view model. So this is all I wanted to show today. So we'll catch you in the next lesson. Thank you.